Yeah, no, everybody has a lot of respect for Coach Farley. He's been around since, I think they had leather helmets on the football. It seems like in UNI, and so he's a well respected coach. And I listened to his press conference today, like I said, and he was just had a lot of respect for the series in general and the atmosphere. It's good for the state of Iowa because there's a lot of kids on both sides of the ball that are going to be they're from the state of Iowa. They're going to be playing, and I'd hate to see a poll, but how many people in the stands total are from within 90 miles of Ames? I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be a fun day. But talk a little bit about your quarterback. I mean, some people don't realize he's from He came from Michigan State, so he's a big time player, got a big time arm, and probably will be playing on Sunday someday.
Yeah, I think Theo. Yeah, there's no doubt he's going to get that opportunity. If they, there's so much that's out of these guys' control, no matter what school you're playing at, when it comes to getting to the NFL and making it through that process. So a lot to be determined, but he definitely has the intangibles to be able to do that, which is I think one thing that kind of sets him apart. There have been a lot of guys that have played a lot of good football at the quarterback position for UNI over the years, and some of them were smaller guys who made the most of what they could with the skill around them, or the skills that they had. But Theo falls into a category of his own. I mean, he's 6'4". He's got the big arm. He's got that build. Yes, he was a top quarterback prospect in the state of Michigan. That's how he landed at Michigan State. They have the coaching change a few years back, and as so often happens, you just get shuffled down the depth chart if things don't break your way. And he came here looking for a fresh start, paired up with Bodie Reeder, which I think has kind of been a match made in heaven with our offensive coordinator in his second full year. And I think that relationship, some of the guys on the team, and just a commitment to being around this program is what kept him here, because I think he did enough last year in this era of the transfer portal and people needing quarterbacks that he definitely would have drawn some eyes and a lot of interest had he gone into the portal. But he showed a lot to the people around here and his teammates and his coaches as far as commitment goes, that they had some unfinished business. He believed in how good they could be here and that he could showcase his talents in enough of a way through the UNI system and playing the schedule that we do, to be able to still do whatever he wants to do after college football and put himself in a position to succeed. But the things about Theo on the field in the here and now, everybody raves about the way that he can control the line of scrimmage, the way that he can control the offense. Obviously, as you know, it's the quarterback, so it's all on his shoulders. The guys follow him through a brick wall. He's not a big yelling, rah guy. He's kind of a guy of few words. But as a couple of teammates have told me, when Theo does say something, everybody listens. And so he brings that gravitas to the program, a lot of quiet confidence there. Kind of a loose guy, too. He's not even what you would call even a typical jock quarterback, I guess, to use the word. I mean, he's obviously he's going into his fifth year of school, and so he's got a lot of that under his belt. He's in some master's classes and doing things like that, and so he's a real cerebral guy, but he can get out there and he understands coverages and he can get out there and he can sling the football. So it's going to be fun to watch what this year has in store. He was playing hands down the best football of any quarterback at the FCS level for sure by the end of last year, and so to pick up where he left off is going to be something to see starting on Saturday.
What's one of his key targets that he's going to have on Saturday? Is there like one guy that is head and shoulders above the rest, or is it pretty even?
Well, that's an interesting position group. Is when we talk about lack of experience, wide receiver is the probably, along with the defensive line and the wide receiver group for the Panthers are probably the two most experienced groups. And so when you say head and shoulders above anybody, I don't know that there's a target right now that fits that, because they all were really productive, and Theo was able to spread the ball around. You throw in his two tight ends as well. Alex Allen, a guy who obviously familiar with his dad coaching at Iowa State and his brother playing tight end at Iowa State. He's going to be productive as well. So it's hard to say, because you got a guy like Sam Schmay, who's a great possession receiver, another under-recruited guy. He came in as a walk-on, and now he's a captain this year in his final year at Duke. He's a guy who is just so sure-handed and steady. He goes in, he's going to run the right route, he's going to get you to the sticks. Something like 35% of his catches last year went for a first down or a touchdown, and so he's that big guy that he's going to look for. Theo's going to look for to know he's in the right spot. Landon is his brother who plays basketball. Logan Wolf is another long receiver right out of Cedar Falls. And he's dealt with some injuries over his time. He's, again, going into his fifth season in the program. Injuries have kept him off the field. We got a glimpse of what he was like healthy at the end of last year. A guy, though, that a lot of people are very excited about the connection, specifically with Theo and him, is Sergio Morency. And he had a tremendous close to the season over the last 6 games, and it was no coincidence that that's really when Theo's production ticked up. He went to the coaches and basically said, Sergio is a guy that I trust. He came to the Panthers as a true freshman out of Florida. So, again, yeah, a lot of Iowa guys, but the coaching staff kind of in that 2020 era. So Sergio kind of got overlooked a little bit just with the way things were going then in recruiting, and he found an opportunity here. Early on in their careers, when Theo came over from Michigan State and when Sergio came in, they were just playing catch together. Neither one of them knew what was going to be in store as far as playing time or who was going to be the guy. And so Theo had built up a trust with him. And last year, as the offense wasn't really stalling, but they were really looking to take off, Theo goes to the coaches and says, hey, I got to get Sergio the ball. You have to get him in the game, get him in the game plan. And they did, and, man, it worked. Theo, few people have been more right about something than that. It really worked with that connection. Sergio's fast. He's the speedster that can hit it big over the top. But one thing he has certainly worked on in the offseason is to become that better, well-rounded wide receiver, where it's not just going to be, Sergio's on the field and he's going to go deep. He's going to be able to run the right route to pick you up 10, 15 yards, what you might need in individual situations to move the chains. And what that will do for him is put him on the field for even more snaps, right? I mean, if he's just the guy who's the deep threat, he might not be on the field enough to make the huge impact that he can. Now that he's a better rounded wide receiver, that might become the guy that answers that question. But going in, there's a lot of targets and a lot of good experience for Theo Day to work with in that receiving corps.
So do you think it's going to be a strength versus strength? I mean, our secondary, Iowa State secondary is going to be really good. I mean, TJ Tampa is going to be a draft pick, and there's a lot of guys. We're dealing with the same thing you guys are. I mean, there's some people that are going to be in new places that haven't seen the field before, and there's going to be a lot of programs looking at their phone, trying to figure out, who is this guy this year. So, I think that's probably going to be a strength versus strength part of the game. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Both teams on the other side have plenty of question marks, and so I don't even know if anybody wants to try to figure out what Iowa State's offense is going to look like, and really our defense too. I mean, there's going to be a lot of question marks going in. But when you look at when the Panthers have the ball and the Cyclones are defending, what you guys have done defensively, the streak of keeping opponents under 400 yards. The Panthers last year averaged over 400 yards, right? Like, they got good and got well against some South Dakota teams and Western Illinois teams that obviously aren't playing nearly the same caliber of defense. But you're right. I mean, I'm excited to see that challenge, and that's going to be an opportunity that I think excites Theo, excites his weapons to say, hey, this is going to be it might be the best defense we see all year, right? When all is said and done, in game number 1, this might be our biggest challenge from a defensive standpoint. Let's go see what we actually can do. And there's a lot of pressure on them. I know they're excited for the pressure, but you're right. It's going to be – I don't know if that's where it's all going to be decided, right? Because the Panthers are going to have to make some plays on defense. Obviously, the Clones are going to have to make some plays on offense, but that might be the most fun of the matchups, because we actually know what to expect a little bit on those two sides of the ball for the individual teams.
Right.
How much do you think Mark Farley's experience being in Jack Trice and having a lot of success, honestly, winning and beating some Cyclone teams has overall for the team going in? Hey, we have a guy who led teams to success in this building or in this stadium.
Yeah, I think overall, as you said, leather helmets, right? I feel like that's kind of true. He's been around for a really long time around this program as a player, as a coach, an assistant, now back as the head coach.
So who did I hate to interrupt you, but do you know who he replaced? It's been so long ago.
Oh man, I do. Sheesh. I was just talking about this with my color guy. It was Mike Dunbar. Dunbar was here. So
don't even know who that is.
So Mike Dunbar was in between Terry Allen and then coach. So because when Terry Allen left here and went to Kansas, and then Mike Dunbar was here for a couple and had some good teams, putting in one of his quarterbacks into the Hall of Fame this year, and they were his career record was something like 15 games over 500, so they were pretty good. But coming out of the 90s with Coach Allen, the standard was pretty high from a 1AA level around here, and whatever. And then you bring in Coach Farley, who is a Panther, and he comes back. So and the rest is history. But to Thomas's point there, I think Coach Farley has seen so many things. And yes, being able to go in and get 3 of the 6 victories all time against Iowa State is one of the things that he has seen and figured out a way to do. And I think what his message, or what he tries to make his message to his guys, is this moment, yes, Like I said, this is going to be an opponent that's way up here when all is said and done as far as level of difficulty going into Jack Trice. Some of these guys were on the team that came in there in 2021 and were a part of that game. A lot of them aren't, though. A lot of the guys that are going to play in key roles, this will be the biggest, the first time they've played in front of anything close to that. And so there will be that emotion. But what he tries to do is keep the focus in on, here's what we need to do. Going through a game week, doing the exact same thing every game week, whether it's Western Illinois at home or going to Jack Trice. I mean, I feel like I'm dumping all over Western Illinois in this podcast, but whatever. They're leading the conference. That's okay.
I doubt anybody from Western Illinois is listening.
That's good. So it's basically trying to keep that focus on, yes, this is something big, exciting. It's a huge game. It's a great interstate game for everything Craig talked about as far as the pride that's on the line and the Iowa pride, but don't make it any bigger than anything else, because that's not going to help you at all. You can recognize that it's bigger. You can recognize that the opponent is in the Big 12 and is bringing all these challenges to you, but you have to attack the problem the same way. And I think that's the biggest thing that Coach Farley is able to impart to his team, or tries to impart to his team every week, no matter the opponent. And I think that helps because he's been through it. He knows what to do in these situations, and that's the success, or that's the way to success that he's found so far.
Yeah, I mean, I was in college in 1986. I believe that's the year is when I think that was the first UNI victory over Iowa State. I was in the stadium that day. I don't know if historically that's right or not, but am I right that didn't Earl Bruce coach at UNI?
Earl Bruce had 1 year at UNI.
Yeah, I thought that. So then he was on. Did you watch the Florida Netflix special or Netflix thing this year? That what's it
I
called?
haven't seen
Swamp
that.
Kings.
Swamp Kings. Yeah. So
It's only been out for a couple weeks.
Urban Meyer. So it's such a strange thing. Earl Bruce is a legendary coach from Iowa State.
Right.
Ended up at Ohio State. Had a stint at UNI. But then when I'm watching this thing with Urban Meyer, and Urban Meyer calls Earl Bruce his mentor in this Netflix thing. So it was a bizarre thing when anyway, it doesn't matter. But so I realize it's going to be a big game for everybody, and it's also going to be a lot of fun. But we also know from being around football forever that there's going to be fumbled snaps. There's going to be guys jumping off sides, so it's going to be, who can make the least amount of mistakes, in my opinion, because like Coach Farley said in his press conference, this is the first time that the lights are on and bullets are flying, so to speak, and everybody's got to be able to handle the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's what you can never prepare for, right? Like, and that's our defensive coordinator, Jeremiah Johnson, who was gone for a year at Kent State and now has come back. He's been here a long time. He's kind of been the right-hand man to Coach Farley on the great FCS defenses that the Panthers have had over the years. And one thing he told me was, all we can do as coaches in the 3 weeks of camp and the first week leading up to this is drill home as many technical aspects as we possibly can. Make sure their assignment sound, know what they're supposed to be doing. So then you hope when that noise is going on and there's 61,500 people and they're yelling at you, most of them are yelling at you and not for you, that you could just tune that out and remember what you're supposed to do. And hopefully, the old saying, you don't know what you don't know. We got a lot of young guys that are going to be playing key spots at linebacker,
right,
key spots in the secondary, key spots on the offensive line. And hopefully it's just back on that muscle memory of what they've been able to do for the last 3 weeks. And the other good thing I would say about this team is, again, it's inexperience on the field, inexperience when the lights are on in front of a crowd. But there's a lot of guys that were here last year. They were here the year before. When last year ended, it felt like unfinished business. Panthers didn't get into the playoffs. They didn't do themselves any favors starting off 0-3. Obviously, that is what it is. They were certainly playing some of the best football at this level by the time the season was done. I would have made a case for them to get in. That didn't happen. But for the players, that left a mark. And next day, right, the day after the bracket came out and they weren't in it on a Sunday in November, whenever that was, they were ready to go back to work. And they worked all through the winter in the weight room. They worked all through spring ball. And so if anybody's got it ingrained, what they need to do, it's this crew of guys. And now, again, how do you respond as a human when you go out there and all of a sudden the bullets are flying? And so that's going to be the interesting thing to see.
Yeah, it kind of seems like both teams are kind of in similar spots where there are a lot of pieces and a lot of unknowns, and UNI has the more known for quarterback, which is kind of reassuring for Panther fans. But as an Iowa State fan, we had a crazy offseason, to say the least, and it's nice. It'll be nice to. It's kind of unsettling that we have to play UNI to beat for the first game, because as Iowa State fans, we're never comfortable playing UNI. Like, even like how many beers you have in the tailgate, you're always in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
You know that you could be sad in a couple hours because Mark Farley comes in and sometimes it just things happen. And like the 3 out of the 6 wins that you and I's had, I've attended those 3 games, and
Yeah.
it's been not very fun, but we
Well,
yeah.
I mean, but it's also, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, when you have a bunch of Iowa kids playing a Power Five school, I mean, it's a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
you're on second on your depth chart, and one of your offensive linemen we're from Humboldt, and Ben Keenest is a kid that played high school football with my son, and so we've known Ben since he was little, and so we all have personally your three linebackers are on their depth chart are all from Iowa, and
Yep.
so there's a lot of Iowa connections there, and it's a big game for those guys. I guarantee you that if you were opening with directional Idaho, that people probably wouldn't get as wound up about it. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
fact of life.
No, and it's been fun. I mean, I love to note on my game boards just the guys on your side and my side. Of course, there's the percentage wise, there's more on our side just because of the makeup of things from Iowa. But I mean, you look at that linebacking core. We got the McLaughlin brothers that'll go against each other theoretically here. The older for UNI and the younger for Iowa State. And you mentioned Cordarius Bailey, who is a guy that everybody just around here loves, right? And I'm sure that was the case there. He's made himself a Panther over the last year, figured out how we do things here, and everybody's very excited. And I think the thing that can go for both teams, and certainly I'm excited for this game. I obviously hope the Panthers do well. I want them to go out and pull the upset and win. It's my second year doing this. I'd love to get one of those great games to kind of put down on the record. But I think for both of these teams, and certainly I'll speak from the Panther standpoint, there's a lot still to come, even past Saturday, right? I mean, when you get past this first game, when you see, for you guys certainly answering some questions, who's even going to be out there, and then for both teams, how are things going to go when you are in that live action? For the Panthers, the sky is the limit after that, right? One other thing that this coaching staff has always been very good at is finding ways to make the right adjustments after maybe things don't go well early or don't go exactly how you want early. So again, that's not to dismiss this game for either side, because I know the Panthers want this game. I know they want to go in there and play their best football, but it is the first of 11, and there'll be a lot of chances for this Panther football team to prove it again. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why there's a lot of excitement in this town and in this area and among Panther alumni and fans is this team has the makings, even if they don't pull this upset for just the 7th time ever against Iowa State, that there's a lot of confidence this team has the makings to do some special things in the conference, out of conference, and in the FCS level this year.
Yeah, it's just UNI is they always have special kids, and like I said, bunch of Iowa high school kids that are probably good enough to play at Iowa State, but like on the lower end, but they want to play, and they just they get out there, and it's just
or Iowa or Kansas State, all these guys that have come in from different. I mean, and you also have a couple guys on the coaching staff that have Iowa connections. I mean, Teef Austin played with Seneca Wallace back in the day, and so I'm sure he's going to be pumped for the game. And Bryce Pop, obviously is, he has been in our high school to recruit kids. He was, and I talked to Ben, and that was one of the reasons he ended up at Iowa State. So yeah, I mean, that's just. It's so many Iowa connections with this. It's insane, which is the way it should be. I mean, it's, this one of the 3 major football teams in our state. I mean, nobody is talking a lot about any of the other Iowa conference schools, and no slight to them, but there's going to be 61,000 people in the stands watching these 2 teams, not at whatever school you're talking about. So it should be fun, and we're looking forward to it.
For sure. Is there any way, I'm not trying to stir stuff up for you guys, any way we can get this to happen on the basketball side? I mean, we see how it goes on football, right? We got to get this going.
Yeah,
right?
I've gotten a chance to know Gary Rima just a little bit. I don't know if he remembers me or not, but I used to be a high school basketball coach, and I actually, when I was probably in my 20s, I worked at UNI's camp when Eldon Miller was the coach, and Darren DeVries was on my team that I was coaching that day.
Yeah.
And so the UNI basketball has been good for a long time, but I don't know how you feel about it, but money has infiltrated the college sports in general and is just taken away from some of those things.
Well, and I know, I mean, it is tough. I mean, to flip to the other side, I can understand it from the Iowa State and the Iowa side with so many metrics and getting into the NCAA tournament and the things you have to do. if you go lose, if the Panthers, like you said, they're good. The Panthers are going to be good this year in basketball too, but that can hurt, and that has huge impacts, right? If all of a sudden you don't make the tournament. So I understand it from that standpoint, but back to the point of the football, it is so fun for this state. There are so many people that have various connections. I was at the state fair in the UNI booth the other day, which was right kitty corner from the Iowa State booth, which was a nice rivalry in and of itself. But everybody that walked up to me, they would say, "Oh yeah, I had this cousin that went to Iowa State, and I had this cousin that went to Northern Iowa, and I had this brother that went to Northern Iowa, but yeah, I went to Iowa State." And so it's fun to be able to see it on the football side, to give people that, I guess, outlet for their stories, right? Even me, I came from Minnesota. My wife was born and raised in Minnesota, but her dad was a Cyclone. He grew up in West Des Moines, and he was a Cyclone. And so it's just fun to have those stories and those connections come out on football. And maybe we can all sit around and hope that maybe it happens for basketball sometime.
Yeah,
it would be fun. I mean, the Cloud Center is obviously a fun place to watch a game, but it's a numbers game anymore. So
for sure.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on and give us some takes.
Yeah.
And
so the one thing that I want to point out before we let you go, I'm surprised on the UNI website when you can print off the roster. You guys post all of the Instagram account names and the Twitter handles. I mean,
we even put the new logo on there. Apparently, it even says X now.
So talking about embracing social media. I mean, so it was it's funny. You've got Dwan Mack's Instagram account from one of your redshirt freshmen. So I thought that was kind of interesting because I think some coaches try everything they can to keep them off of social media, because social media, like Fred Hoiberg said, might be the end of us.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and coaches maybe as much as anybody outside of parents, right? Like as parents, we have that kind of thing to walk too, right? Maybe even more immediate, but coaches certainly have to walk that line. And that's the thing I'll say about Coach Farley, and that's something I've told people this year. I haven't known him long, right? I met him last year, got to know him a little bit over the season, but I see him starting to think differently about some things around the game, as you do, as you have to, right? I mean, you see a wave of young coaches doing things differently. There have been a couple of different things that we have done internally from a broadcast department standpoint, whether it was our spring game that we did a live stream of, and some other graphics that we've put out on social media, this coming to the point. And the biggest thing he said to me is, man, we get recruits that are seeing all this kind of stuff. So social media, sure, it can be dangerous and you have to walk that line, but that's where those recruits are, right? They're out there, and you want to put your program out there in the best light. And so I think it's been fun to kind of be able to work with Coach a little bit on finding the best, the safest, the most positive ways to do that. And because if you can do that and you can elevate the brand of Panther football, then that's only going to help, right? And that's the same for any program around the country. So it's been interesting to see. And it's funny you mentioned that, but it's been interesting to see just kind of every coach has to figure out what it's not just an offensive scheme that's going to give you the leg up now in 2023, right? Like there's a lot of different balls in the air that you have to figure out what's going to be the best way to find success these days. So
what's your X factor for Saturday? Something we haven't talked about.
I think I got to go the offensive line play. I would go line play in general, which is maybe a little boring, but we'll go on the offensive line, because I know your defensive line, we talk about strength on strength, right? And offensive line would be the least experienced unit of anybody on the offensive side. Now, Chase Aaron's the guy in the middle, not very big. Kid from Dyke New Hartford High School, came in here. This is the first year he's going to start full time. He's going after his second degree. Tough kid, got to be a captain this year. I just interviewed him today. Just a tremendous kid. But he's going to be undersized. He's going to be 6'1", going up against some big dudes on your defensive line up front, some big linebackers coming at him. But, again, it's a hungry crew up front. But if you want an X factor, how those guys go out and after they get punched in the mouth, see how they can protect Theo Day, because if he has some time, he's going to find some weapons and he's going to be able to make some plays. So I think it's got to start up front. And the reason I mentioned the defensive line is with question marks on defense, there's not a lot of question marks on that defensive line. They're skilled, they are experienced, and they can make an impact up front all season long. So if you can lead from the front on both offense and defense, the Panthers could have a shot.
Well, I know I feel a little bit better about the game with our offensive line, because it's always been a question mark for several years, but they said that our offensive line would be the 7th biggest offensive line in the NFL right now. So I'm hoping that
in the NFL. Wow.
So I'm hoping that what our dietitian and our training table is going to pay off on Saturday. But we really, like Thomas said, we really appreciate coming on. It's been a lot of fun, and good luck the rest of the season after Saturday.
Sounds good. You guys too.
All right. Yeah. So I just say, it's kind of fun to learn a little bit about UNI, but and do what we can to not be mean to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was going to tell him that to make sure that the UNI fans know you can't screenshot tickets anymore.
Oh yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's
the lines are going to be horrible. So let's just start and just say.
Yeah, let's just start. We can start the podcast complaining about that because it doesn't make any sense. How many trees? How many trees are we saving by not printing out the tickets?
There's no. It has nothing to do with the paper.
So what are we doing?
It has to do with the technology of how they're doing tickets. It has nothing to do with.
But sometimes in cases it takes longer because people's like phone cases are sometimes dirty and takes 10 years to scan the ticket.
Well, all they got to do is get it. It's just like going to an airplane. You have to get it in your Apple Wallet. I mean, there's no difference between that and going on a plane. You can't screenshot your. I don't. Anyway, so let's just.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start or.
Yep.
All right. Good.
Yep. So are we gonna act like we just talked to him or no?
Sure.
All right. Well, we just got done talking to the UNI J.W Cox about the UNI Panthers, and it sounds like they got a solid quarterback and they got an inexperienced O-line, which I feel like that kind of helped me. But for Saturday, obviously, UNI, you can never feel confident going to UNI because they are Bulldogs and show up every time. But having our defensive line and hearing him say their most inexperienced is their O-line, but that seems where UNI strives anyways. But it kind of makes me feel better because we got a pretty solid defensive line, like Ryan said last week. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, when JW was talking about their center, who is a Dyke New Hartford grad, it sounds like he's 6'1", 274. And I don't know if you saw the picture of Dominic Orange on social media this week, but he's not 6'1", 274. I mean, so, when Ryan was talking about that Dominic can take up two people, he might take up three people on Saturday because Dominic will be a problem. But, in getting ready for this game, I was just surprised that you go down the list of the teams that UNI has players that where they came from, like their quarterback, is a great quarterback, came from Michigan State. They have guys that came from Iowa and Nebraska, several guys from Iowa, Kansas, other Power 5 schools that they've brought kids in, Kansas State. So, they've got players that are coming to an FCS school probably because they entered the portal and might have not found a place to go. And so then they land at one of the best FCS teams in the country. Coach Farley said this week that they have the number 5 hardest FCS schedules in the country. I mean, and I'm sure us being on it doesn't hurt them any, but I don't know. I mean, they were 5-4 last year. They hammered South Dakota to finish the year. I don't know how you can read into this. I think if we try to predict the game, I think it's just a flipping outright guess. I mean, we've got a bunch of kids that have not been in front of 61,000 people before. Sadowski, I don't care how good you are, the adrenaline is going to be flying out of his ears on Saturday. So he's got to be able to control himself. The UNI kids are going to be jacked up to try to knock off us, but that first quarter is going to be huge. I mean, if we throw a pick, they throw a pick, we fumble a snap, they fumble a snap, one touchdown that goes the wrong way in this could be a big thing. But I don't know. I mean, I think we'll be fine. I mean, I just think size wise and speed wise, we're going to be a problem for them. But it's just going to. I think, to be totally honest with you, I think our kids are probably just looking for a little stress relief. I mean, they're tired of listening to all the crap that everybody's talking about. I mean, Ryan when he was on with us last week, said, they've put it in the rearview mirror, but they haven't had a chance to put it in the rearview mirror against somebody else. And so if we come out and beat UNI by a couple touchdowns, we're not talking about this crap anymore. If J.J. Cole comes out and has a great game, we're not talking about all of the other off-season stuff. So, but if we come out and it's a 1-point win, 2-point loss, we're probably going to say, well, they had a hard time handling the offseason and all of the extracurricular things we had to deal with. So I don't know. We'll see.
But like my main concern coming to the season is still our special teams. Like,
right,
we can talk about every year that they're getting better, and now we got a coach now. Maybe that'll help things, but until I see
I think it will.
Until I can see it
consistent,
but until I see it, I can't
Right.
believe it, because
Right.
every year there's always 10 or 15 things that go wrong in weeks, and that are huge plays that could have won us games. Like, there's a lot of key moments in the Campbell era that would have gone even like we think the Campbell era is successful now. Like, looking back in the past, like we could have had way more success, even more, if we just simply had a kicker or could kick it through the end zone. And
Right.
And just as an Iowa State fan, it's just like going into the season, this is the same thing. We're talking about the offensive line and our special teams, and it's just whenever we see consistent change, that's when we'll stop talking about it. It seems like it's the same talking points every year coming into the year.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Coach Clanton, or I hope I pronounced it right, the kid that we got that's a offensive line coach from UNI. We didn't even bring that up in our talk with J.W. Cox, the play-by-play guy. I mean, how does that factor into it? I mean, Coach Farley said in his press conference, he knows our offensive line coach has been in the room with their defensive coaches, so he knows, UNI's defense. So, I mean, he's also going to be jacked up about playing his former team. I don't know. I mean, it's going to probably come down to who's going to be able to handle the emotions the best. I mean, who's going to be able to handle if things go south for a moment, in the first quarter? Are they going to be able to handle, if somebody fumbles a snap, like I said, or whatever? I mean, but I think you're right. I mean, it's going to come down to special teams. It always comes down to the offensive line. I mean, always. I mean, I'll never say, well, you can win with a great quarterback that has a bad offensive line. No, that's not true. I mean, we've got great running backs. Our offensive line has got it. If we can run the ball in the first half, we're going to be fine. But we come out and do a 3-and-out a couple times. Now we're going to give UNI hope, and then it's going to be a problem. So I don't know. It'll be fun. I mean, it's going to be 1,000 degrees. Everybody's going to be dealing with the whole cramping thing, and trying to stay hydrated. They're going to sell all of the $7 waters that we have at the concession stand or whatever. I guess they don't handle cash anymore at the concession stand at Jack Trice.
Oh, really?
It's a cashless thing, and they won't let you screenshot tickets anymore. So I think when you go to the game, you need to get in line early, because there's going to be a learning curve. But supposedly I heard that they put in new cell towers too, so hopefully that'll help. But you got to get your ticket in your Apple Wallet or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't stand there in line trying to finish your 25th Bud Light, not Bud Light, Busch Light probably, but trying to get your ticket on so you can get it scanned. Because have you ever looked at the kids that they have standing there scanning?
Yeah, they're DMAC. They're DMAC baseball players. Like,
what a brutal job
they're doing, and they're doing it for free. They're just volunteering because they get something. Yeah.
Be nice to those kids. I mean, just do your job, get your ticket in your Apple Wallet or whatever, and go into the game and enjoy
know that
the
the person's, if they're getting, like, people are getting frustrated, these people are not getting paid most likely. So it's just, yeah. Which I don't know. That change is, that doesn't make any sense to me. And honestly, just having physical tickets just for like good games that happened. Like, I love to keep on those and for souvenirs, but guess not everything can live on.
And I don't disagree with that. I mean, I don't disagree with going back to paper. I mean, but that's not the world we live in. I mean, I think that's just part. I mean, do they even sell paper programs anymore?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
Like, Colin Newell.
How many programs do we have stored away in our family?
We have a lot.
Yeah. Games. I've got tons of them from the long time ago. You've got some. I mean, there's probably some on the wall behind you. I mean, that's a memorabilia piece that has disappeared because of the digital age. Nobody's going to be looking at their phone 30 years ago, 30 years from now, reminiscing about, a big victory. I mean, it's too bad, but it is what it is.
Yeah. But as you're saying, way before that, we were talking about the tickets. Is Ryan Clanton being played or coached at UNI, so like he knows like how the Farley is run, and maybe we can show up finally on the offensive line. Also, another player that lost to UNI in his playing day was Deion Broomfield, who's our safeties coach, who's like that's like one of our top positions in the whole team, and I feel like if anyone knows about UNI and losing at UNI, it's Deion Broomfield, and he should have our players ready. And I feel like that makes me feel good for Saturday because we have a lot of things to be motivated about, and it's just nice we'll have a tough opponent, but not like Power 5 level experience talent all around, but they play like it when they show up at Jack Trice, it seems like, and so
Yeah.
our kids need to show up. So
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, it is, it's just can't get overhyped for it. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we won 46-6? I mean, but doesn't happen very often. And I think, Coach Eelhouse, I'm excited to see, what his offense is going to look like. Man, what a crappy cards that he was dealt with, having to go through spring and now changing quarterbacks. And this is your first year as offensive coordinator. So man, I'm sure he spent a million hours trying to get this figured out. And so I'm excited. I mean, the cupboard isn't bare. I mean, I think it's going to be fun to kind of surprise people. I think we're going to be the ones with a chip on our shoulder. I think our kids are ready to just release some energy and go knock somebody down that isn't a teammate anymore. I think, and I watched the Coach Campbell's press conference, and he was talking about this word. I'm going to mispronounce it, mudenta, I think, or something. Mudeta or something is their theme this year, and it basically means being happy for somebody else's success. Because he talked about all of his players are one of the best players in their high school team. Now they got to come sit and pay their dues, and we have an example. One of our kids, Cade Madsen, as a walk-on at Iowa State, was one of the best high school players in the state his senior year, and he's trying to get on a special team. And so that's a hard thing ego-wise for any teenager to do. And so I think the type of leader Coach Campbell is that we're going to find out. That I think that we're going to be ready to roll on Saturday and probably go out and hopefully have a really nice day. But who knows? I mean, anybody that knows right now is totally guessing. So
yeah, I just hope we can come out and show out and just like have some hype going to the Iowa game. Like I don't want it to be like exactly what we're saying. Like we're gonna drag our feet through the game, barely win, look ugly, look bad on special teams. Our offensive line looks better, but not like what they said. But I hope it's not like that, because when it just sucks knowing that when we were talking about this, like the first year we did our podcast, like when we had Brees Hall and Brock Purdy and all them, we were talking like the same way, and we don't like UNI was one drive away from beating us that day.
Right. Yeah.
So if Campbell can.
So did you see? So speaking of Brock Purdy, did you see the Garofalo interview this week?
Who?
The Jimmy Garofalo interview.
Garoppolo
used to be for the 49ers. He got hurt, and then that's how Brock Purdy got his job.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah. Anyway, he was kind of laughing at the way the 49ers are handling the quarterbacks. I mean, it was just a bizarre moment. I mean, so anyway, you have to go back and watch it. I mean,
the guy who's dating a porn star.
I'm sorry?
The guy who's dating a porn star?
I don't know who he's dating. What are you talking about?
That's the Jimmy G's, yeah. He was supposed to like take over for Tom Brady, and then went to the 49ers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was kind of laughing at how the 49ers have handled their quarterback room. And I said, man, can you get any more bitter than that? I mean, everybody's talking. I mean, the one of the GM for I think it was a GM from the 49ers was praising Brock Purdy and Coach Campbell even on Twitter, and then this guy comes out and starts trying to hammer. I mean, how can you possibly say anything negative about Brock Purdy the way he played last year?
Yeah, he did exactly.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
He did
I
exactly
mean,
what
when you
he's
say
supposed to
something
do.
like that, you're just being a dick. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, because Brock Purdy played like I was waiting for it because like Brock obviously came at Iowa State firing guns ablazing, took the job right away, like legendary status, was wiggling into his first touchdown, and
Yeah, right. Yeah.
For his first rushing touchdown rather, but yeah, it's just him the amount of weapons Brock has and the amount of weapons he had in college. Like it's just what he's used to. He's had so many weapons around him the entire time he's left high school. So he's looked comfortable last year, and I don't see any reasons why he's not going to look comfortable all year this year. Because
Well, I really think that the reason Brock played so well is that he didn't have a whole lot of time when he was playing for us. I mean, when he was in the pocket, he had to scramble a lot. I mean, think about that Oklahoma State game the first time he played. His pump faking 20 yards down the field because he was running for his life. With the 49ers, he had time, and he's accurate. And so I think that was a big piece of it. But anyway, I thought it was just bizarre that Garofalo was trying to figure.
Garoppolo.
I don't know if it's Garofalo.
Garoppolo.
There's
Jimmy
no
Garoppolo.
It's all right. So now you're going to make me Google it. Everybody's laughing at us right now because we're arguing about how to pronounce his name. What is Garoppolo? Shoot, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I don't know why I put an F in it. I've said that forever. Sorry. Don't know what the hell I'm talking about as usual. But anyway, he did look like an idiot. So that's the way it is. So, but man, it's going to be kind of fun on Sundays though. We got a ton of Cyclones playing. Xavier looks good.
Yep.
Wilmot looks good.
Yeah,
Anthony Johnson.
Yeah, they all made
roster.
teams. Yep. Anthony Johnson, Xavier Hutchinson are both on NFL rosters, which is incredible. I honestly, looking at Anthony Johnson, no offense to Anthony Johnson, I really never thought he would be NFL caliber, and now he is. It's just playing for the Green Bay Packers, and obviously I have to root for the Green Bay Packers now, and it's just nice to have Cyclone still on the squad because Lazard left, so still have
so Lazard, Dave Montgomery. We got tons of Cyclones that have a reason to watch football. I mean, I've never been a huge NFL fan because I've never had a dog in the fight, but thank God they put the NFL ticket on YouTube TV.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. I think they should have done. They should have done it 5 years ago.
Oh yeah,
like I think
DirecTV is ridiculous.
I think Pat McAfee is really one that showed how the power of YouTube, and like he literally started from YouTube and now is going to be paid a crap load of money on ESPN, and he's going to be like him and Stephen A are going to be ESPN, like the heads of ESPN for the next 5 years, and the world is changing. Some of us like it, some of us don't. Some of us likes our paper tickets. Some of us don't like the awkward moments with the DMAC baseball players or softball players with the tickets. But I don't run things at Iowa State, and
nope, they're not listening to us.
Yeah, so. If they were, they'd probably still have that helmet on back, the same helmet that's right next to you. And
that's Derek Clark's helmet, still in our studio. Yeah, the spinning bird helmet.
Yep, that was
one of my favorites.
Yep, I wish we would just have a throwback season and just work like
that would be fun.
We had a couple like homecomings where it was Texas Tech, and I wanted like Seneca to come back. Like Seneca's came back many times, but I wanted like them to go all in. But I feel like there's some like we switched like brands. I can't remember what brand like that was, so I can't think that we can do a throwback uniform of like Adidas.
Like, no, I don't either. Well, that's a good question. I did know who it was.
So
yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, it is. I mean, it's kind of fun that Lateef Austin, is a great Cyclone that played with Seneca, I'm sure. I mean, and so it's going to be fun to have him around Saturday. And I've talked to several people that are tailgating, and the whole tailgating thing has changed. But I listened to the call-in show last night, and if I heard Jamie Pollard right, the rent on one of the buildings, the first building they're putting up in Cytown, is going to pay for all of the renovation of the parking lot.
Wow.
rent from just one building.
Really? Wow.
So the amount of money that Sci-Town is going to bring into our the athletic department is insane. So I think people need to be patient and understand that it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be like our version of the Power and Light District. I think at the end of the day, I think that's the vision. But people have to trust Jamie because he hasn't been wrong very often.
Yeah, and like I think it opens
Been wrong a couple times, but not very often.
Yeah, prom, change the logo.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah.
That's
So
about it.
what's your prediction for Saturday? Are you going to do a prediction?
I feel like I've never gotten a prediction right, and I think predicting this game is like silly. I mean, like you have no idea. Like there's no betting line. There's really nothing to go off of. So
what is the spread?
There's no betting line. There's no betting line for FCS.
Oh, I see.
So
well, I mean, when you look at their schedule from last year, I mean, you can talk up UNI all you want, but you know, we're the best team they're going to play this year. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, it's going to be in front of the biggest crowd they're going to see all year. So I didn't realize totally changed the subject, but I talked to a buddy of mine today. I didn't realize Nebraska is opening at Minnesota.
Really, for the season?
They're starting with a big the Saturday. Suppose Nebraska plays at Minnesota on Saturday.
That's weird. Like I should have brought it up. I was gonna ask J.W about like the importance of the game and if he's scared if this game might disappear in the near distant future because of the changes of the landscape of college football.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, if we have 35 teams in the Big 12, and it probably will.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's just the way it is. I mean, there's nothing we can do about that. So, I think you probably hit on something, Thomas. I mean, I think we're probably in the twilight of this series. I mean, I'm not sure how many more times this is going to happen.
Yeah, which it just obviously we complain about every time we play them, but you love something until you don't have it. You know, like it like would rather have like SEMO or easier team, but I don't know. It's just I feel like it's better for like the fans. Like how many college students that go to UNI come to their first tailgate at Iowa State with their friends, probably go to Iowa State. How many of those situations happen? Like how many of those are not going to happen anymore if we stop this game? Which I don't know if we're going to stop this game. So there's been no word about it. So we're going to keep playing until we are. So
I just think because of the landscape of college football that it could happen, and then all the UNI guys turn into Purple Hawks after this. I mean, there's so many UNI fans that are Hawk fans. It's just absolutely insane. But that's just the way it is. So I hope I'm going to be totally honest with you. After what happened to your brother this summer, you know, when he walked by the UNI football team and they were, you know, yelling at him and everything, I hope we win 50-0. I mean, that's just that's how I feel, to be totally honest with you. It's just a loyalty thing on my end. So,
and I think our secondary can lock him down, like especially if we can get to the quarterback and make him his day hard. And if Orange gets a hold of him, obviously, what you said, the guy who's gonna be blocking him obviously weighs a lot less than him. But how many times has another team said that about us?
Right.
You know, so. Yeah,
well, Theo Day might be a really, really good quarterback, but if he's running for his life, it could be a long day.
He can really do so much.
I hope that's the case. We'll find out. But I really hope, change the subject again, but, I keep hearing all these stories about Ames Lager and how, everybody's posting pictures about it, the We Will beer we talked about with Ryan, and I'll be damned if I can find it. I mean, it's not, I've been in every liquor store and Hy-Vee and Fairway that I can find in my area, and I cannot find it anywhere yet. So, and I've had a couple managers of stores tell me it's a distribution problem. So I'm hoping we can get our hands. I know you don't like it, but I'm hoping we can at least promote it a little bit. Since that is going to help the We Will Foundation. I mean, the Back Pocket Brewery, I believe, which is out of Iowa City, is doing a Cyclone beer, but that doesn't help our athletes. So I'm hoping we can find it and hope people still keep giving to the We Will too.
Yep. So, we really appreciate you guys listening. We had a lot of listeners on our last episode, and
we did.
And Ryan gave us a lot of insight, which we really haven't had much insight this off season because obviously it's been locked down because of the gambling situation. So, we really appreciate you guys.
How good is Ryan, by the way?
He is just fantastic.
I mean, he will be the CEO of Farm Bureau someday. I mean, he is first of all, he's just a really good human being, but man, does he know his stuff. I mean, and he is such a positive guy. I mean, I felt like I was ready to go out and play again after talking to him. He's just a super guy. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, go back and listen to it. I'd listen to it again just to get some insight on what we're going to see Saturday, because he's just a super guy. But this is Thomas's passion, is this Iowa State podcast thing. So tell your friends, and we're commercial free, obviously, and tell your friends about it. And we'd like to get a little more following, and we've got shirts on soundthecyrens.com that you can get if you want. Give us a shout out. We'll find, maybe we see the tailgate, we'll get you a koozie or something, and we got new window stickers for your car. Whatever we got to do. It's just a lot of fun. So I'm hoping we're heading into a special few weeks of football here.
Yep. So yeah, hopefully we survive Saturday, and hopefully we're acting to a good win, and looking forward to a hot week versus Iowa, and hopefully get some Ames locker to the Cyhawk thing in Humboldt.
Yeah.
When
I saw that Iowa Swarm beer was on sale, so it must not be very good. So.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys listening, and go Cyclones.
Go Cyclones.